If you're tired of laboriously creating the same presentations over and over again using the same templates in PowerPoint, then this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to show you how you can very, very quickly, in a matter of minutes, create a really engaging, professional-looking presentation using a combination of AI tools. So if that's interesting to you, if you want to know how to make excellent, professional, informative presentations at the touch of a button in only a few minutes, then this is the video for you. So keep watching. In this video, I'm going to take you through how you can use AI tools to turn information, whether it's in a raw data format like the Excel sheet we've got in front of us, or reports, or a handbook, or whatever it might be, into a great presentation in a matter of moments. And if you're like me, you've probably spent a lot of your career making and giving presentations. And you'll know from first-hand experience just how time-consuming it is to make presentations. How many hours and hours and hours you've spent in PowerPoint or whatever software you might use generating a presentation and making sure you've summarized the right points and the right key points and making sure that it's presentable and well structured and not overly texty and engaging enough for the audience. And wouldn't it be great if there was a way of making an excellent presentation really, really quickly and easily? And you're lucky, because there is, and we're going to go through that in this video using AI. Now, I'm actually going to use two different AI tools to create this presentation, and I'm not directly promoting either of these tools. I'm not on commission from either of them. These are just the ones I'm using for the demonstration. There are, of course, alternatives out there. And the tools that I'm going to be using are ChatGPT and a software called Gamma. And, of course, you don't necessarily need to use ChatGPT for this. If you've already got the presentation outline that you want to put into Gamma, you can skip right ahead to the second point. But I'm just going to go through the first step as well, just to show you how quickly and easily you can get from the raw data right the way through to the presentation. So you can see on the screen I've got a list of different products and the products and how much they've sold and how much profit they've made at various different locations during particular seasons, which particular store that they sold at under the company's umbrella of stores. And we want to present this information in a way that is palatable, in a way that is presentable at a shareholders meeting, for example. Now, of course, we could go through all of this manually, and we could create pivot tables, and we could create graphs analyzing the information. Then we can go over to PowerPoint, and we can start typing up the key points that we've made and summarizing it from our analysis. But that's probably a morning's work, whereas we're actually going to go through this in a few minutes. So just how much time you can save by using these AI tools versus doing it manually. So the first thing I'm going to do is switch over to GPT now. And you can see I've already inserted this spreadsheet, and I've asked it to please review the attached figure and provide some qualitative analysis and recommendations for a shareholder meeting. Now, of course, you might actually go into more depth, more detail, and wanted to do other things as well if you were actually using this in your job. But this is just for demonstrative purposes to show you what it can do. So you can see it's now started to analyze the information. It's giving us some key observations as the revenue. It's talking about the profit margins at different locations, different products, etc. Expenses as well, which products have very high expenses compared to revenue. And of course, you could go back into this and ask it to provide more statistics and those sorts of things as well. So you don't have to just take the initial outputs. You can also then ask it further questions, further analysis. But of course, we're just using this for demonstrative purposes. So what we've now got, we've got a very brief overview of our analysis for the shareholders meeting. Again, you would expand on this more, you would ask it further questions if you were actually using this information. But we're just going to take that brief overview, copy that, and we're going to head over to a company or a software called Gamma. And when we go onto Gamma, we can ask it to generate presentations with AI. Now, we can ask it to generate a presentation from scratch. So we could just ask it to, I want to give a presentation on the Battle of Stalingrad. So write for me a report on, write for me a presentation on the Battle of Stalingrad. But of course, we can't just do that. We can't just say, write me a report for this company, because we need specific information. So we might import the URL if we had lots of information on a website, or we can just paste in the text, which is what we're going to do here. Because of course we copied all of that from GPT. So you can see we've pasted in this information. We now have some different options. We can create a presentation, we can create a website out of it. We could create a document if we wanted a very professional looking document. Maybe that would be a handout that we would then also give away as part of the presentation. And also, interestingly, you can make social media posts as well. I'm not saying we would make this into a social media post, but if you wanted to create a social media post, a LinkedIn or Instagram story, you can actually create them using this software. So we just posted our text in there. And we click configure. It's now giving us some options for what our presentation is going to look like. We can edit it on a card-by-card basis. We can ask it to, we can update it manually in here. Let's say we want it into a few more cards. We want it to be 12 cards long. We want the language, what we want it to be. So, for example, if for some reason it said Brazil, but we want it in English. So we write for shareholders and key stakeholders. And we want the tone to be professional and engaging. Now with images, we can choose it to make AI images, we can choose it to use stock photos, website images, other illustrations, etc. So we might just say we want it to be automatic, whatever you think is best at that particular point in time. Also, of course, you can use GPT to make specific graphs on the analysis and the information as well that we could then use. And we can ask it to generate content based on what we've put in. We can ask it to condense what we've done or preserve everything that we've done and choose the amount of information per card. So maybe we want it to be medium. We can always cut it down a bit more later, but we want it to take what we've already done and generate a presentation based around that. So we click continue and then we choose a theme. And you can see that you can choose all these different themes. You can select customization. We want to highlight the professional themes here. Maybe we want this theme, for example. Maybe we want something that is lighter or more colorful. We want to create our own. Maybe we want to shuffle them, depending on what we want. But this seems like a reasonable theme. So we'll click generate. And what it will now do is, in front of our very eyes, it will generate a presentation for us. And you can see it's making it now using images, using different formats as well. It's almost too hard to see what's going on because it's working so quickly. And we can see it's now generated our presentation for us. Now, of course, it's not perfect. There are things you want to take out. So, for example, Los Angeles is definitely not there in the US. Dallas is definitely not there. And there's not two Dallases as well. So it's just randomly generating images. So you might want to change that. But you can quickly change that very easily by selecting the image and deciding what you want. Perhaps you just want to use an AI image. Perhaps you just want to use an accent image. So just something that looks quite nice and colorful. Just add that in. You can see there. Perhaps you want to change the way in which something looks. For example, with this, maybe we don't want it to be in this timeline format. So we can quite quickly select that and we can change it to bullet points. We can change it to text boxes. We can make it larger, we can make it smaller. What we can also do is we can review a slide as a whole. So let's say this slide, we don't really like it be that way. We want it to be in a bit more detail. So we can either just ask it to do different things in the same way we'd ask GPT, but it's also got some preset options as well. So we wanted to make it a bit longer. We want a bit more information here. So we ask it to make it longer. And it's just working on that now. And you can see it's given us a lot more depth, a lot more detail there. But we don't actually like it. We think it's too long now. So what it does is it actually keeps the original and the adapted one. And we think, well, actually, we prefer the original, so we're going to keep it as the original. And what we can then do, let's say we were happy with this. I know there's a few more images we might want to change here. But we can now present it directly from Gamma. We can use what is known as the highlight tool to pick out these highlights there. And we can work through the presentation in that way. Or what we can actually do as well, so I just come out of here, is we can share this presentation or we can export it. And we can export it to PDF or PowerPoint as well. And the output from when it comes to the PowerPoint is exactly what it looks like here. And then we can animate it in the same way we would animate any presentation in PowerPoint. And there are a few other things we can do just while we're here to show you. Is we can change the theme as a whole just at the touch of a button. And when we were looking at earlier at how we can ask it to do certain things, or we can ask it to be more specific, break things into bullet points with the presets, we can actually do that for the presentation as a whole in the top corner as well. So if we wanted to make all of it shorter, or all of it in more bullet points, or to have more visuals, etc., because we can do that. We can add smart summaries at the end of it. We can fix the spelling and grammar, improve the writing, make it easier, make it shorter, make it longer. We can improve the entire presentation as a whole. And whilst you see there are some things that maybe that's a bit too cartoonish, we don't want to that, we want to edit the image, we instead want to ask it to generate a completely new image through AI, or we want to insert images we have, or graphs that we may have created using ChatGPT, we can do all of that quickly and easily. But just think about how quickly we've made this. Yes, it needs some amendments, but how quickly we've gone from just looking at this raw data to having a fairly attractive looking presentation ready to use in a meeting. All at the touch of a few buttons and a few minutes of our time. So really, really useful tools there to really improve your productivity and your efficiency, particularly when it comes to making presentations.